Hello, beautiful souls out there. I hope you're able to get out in nature like Starlight is. And what a beautiful spot. This is really rocky here. There's a lot of rocks. I'm in the middle of a bunch of rocks. And I got some soil here. So Starlight found me a little spot out here surrounded by a bunch of big boulders out here. So anyway, I love you. I hope you're getting out in nature like Starlight is. And also, if you are new to my YouTube channel, welcome. And you could find me on YouTube, and that is at Starlight, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman. Plus, you could give my videos a thumbs up, and you could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Don't be afraid, don't be shy. Swing by and say hi, Starlight, by leaving me a comment down below. Beep, beep, beep. And you could share my videos with your family, your friends. Well, because there's all these boulders of rocks and out in these areas, you never know where. I'm going to say a rattlesnake, because there's some areas that Starlight goes to that there's rattlesnakes out there, and they do love to hide under rocks in the shade. And so Starlight's kind of out here in the shady area. So there could be rattlesnakes out here, and Starlight wouldn't know. But yeah, you could share my video. You could share my videos with your pet rattlesnake. And let me think. We're gonna say rats, because like rats and rattlesnakes. Yeah, that's not a very beautiful visual there. But yeah, you could share my videos with a rat. Plus, you can also check out my playlist and find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight, or on Facebook, and that is Kathy with a K Dingman Starlight. So anyway, this video is about it's a trap. It's a trap. Don't fall for the trap. And some of you might already fell for the trap. Starlight did not fall for this trap. And what is this trap, Starlight? Well, the trap is, number one, before I explain that, is that we all been lied to, and so it is really important. I say this repeatedly on my YouTube channel for a reason. That's how God is, when there's something, important, just like in the Bible, God will put it in the Bible more, that, you'll see certain things going over and over again because it's that important. And this is what has gone on in this 3D matrix stimulation. And there's still some of you that think Starlight is crazy for believing that stuff, but I'm not crazy. I'm just waking up. So yes, we are in a stimulation, and we have all been lied to out here. Your parents were lied to. And so this is how it just gets like recycled, all the lies, generation after generation. And the school system's a part of it, and the churches are a part of this, a lot of them, so, and that is why it's so important to really know where you send your kids, or where you're going for church, what do they believe, and what is the truth? That's what you got to ask yourself, because even the churches program people. Even the pastors, actually, at least where I came from, is that the pastor where the church I came from, is that pastor had books studying how to control the people. Things that psychologists would study, that man was studying to keep people locked in and programmed so then they couldn't escape. But Starlight did. And so anyway, we've been all lied to. Sorry about the lighting here, because it's this spot here with the sun and shade here. So yes, we all been lied to in this matrix. I'm gonna see what I can do here, because it is shady here. And what is the American dream, right? Got to watch out for some of these things. It's the house, it's the car, it's about having all these clothes and jewelry, material possessions. That's the trap. And some of you might say, hey, I love going out, Starlight, like that's why I got this job. I got this job so I could pay my bills and reward myself after, so I can go and get that beautiful truck or that car, or, the ladies with the jewelry or the makeup, you know, the way the society is it's a show and tell. When I went to school, they had show and tell. Of course, when Starlight went to school, she didn't have anything to bring in the show and tell. But, how do you feel when you go to school, and all these rich kids are bringing in these cool stuff, and you're like, what do I I'm not going to bring that into school. They'll laugh at me if I bring that in. So, and this is the way the trap is, is to buy things so you can impress people. And a lot of times it's these people that who are you trying, like when you buy stuff, some of you are saying, I don't do that. Well, let's check this out. So, you know, because it's while you're thinking about what you want to buy, what's going on with your thought process when you're, thinking, I want to get this, I want to buy this. Like when you buy a car, do you buy something that you said, hey, I would be happy and content with this car, but, you know, the people at work or my family, what are they going to say about it? What are they going to say about the car? I have to say, when my son started off, it was so funny. His first car looked like a bumblebee. But you know what? He didn't care. Of course, a lot of times when kids get their first car, they don't really care, depending on what kind of family you come from. So a lot of people called his car a bumblebee because it was yellow. It was funny. It was a station wagon. It was an old car, but it got him through. He was able to go to work back and forth, and he loved his car. Even though a lot of people made fun of that car, he loved that car. It was something he paid for. So, but why do you buy the car that you have, or the clothes that you wear? Are they name brand clothes? Starlight has never done that. Most of the time, I have to say, is my clothes came from secondhand stores or a yard sale, garage sale, or my daughter. My daughter gave me so many beautiful clothes. I mean, my daughter would bring me bags and bags of bags and bags throughout I could wear my daughter's clothes. So it was beautiful to have a daughter that, was taller than her mother, because then the pants even fit better than the ones that I had. They were longer. So I had a lot of hand-me clothes down from my daughter. So I didn't have to go really out to a store, and I wasn't impressing anyone. I was very grateful for the clothes that I had. But this is what happens in society is, it's about buying clothes or buying things with money that you don't have to impress people that you don't even like, and that is so true. And I'm taken from my mentor, is that is so true, you know, is, hey, because when you buy a car, people are gonna, hey, I'm getting a new car. First thing, they're like, hey, what size motor is it? You know? So that should not be really the reason why you get the car, and why do you got the job? What, you know, how much do you get paid, for your job? You know, do you have enough money to pay for your bills? Are you married? Do you have kids? You know, I've seen all kinds of stuff when it comes to people as far as like money, jobs, and all this stuff. There's times that people that um, do care about what other people think as far as what kind of clothes they have, what kind of restaurant do they go to, you know, they will go out and buy things that they can't even afford because they don't want people to think that they can't afford it. And like at Christmas times, many people will go out and that Starlight does not celebrate Christmas the way most people do. is, at Christmas time, a lot of people are going to get together at Christmas with their families and friends. Well, now, why did they buy their child that gift or this gift, or buy their family members this or that? Was it for the right reasons? Or was it to impress other people with the gift that you bought? So, in this reality, the way I'm talking about material stuff and material values now, I just met a lady, I don't know what her name was, but it was a big eye-opener for me, because this is how a lot of people are. And God protected me from this, so it didn't happen to Starlight. Is people have a job, and they got bills, of course. They got the car payment, the rent, sometimes people got medical bills, hospital bills, or whatever. And so then they, on the weekends, what it is, a lot of times people are not really happy with who they are. And they go out and buy a lot, and, so then when they do buy something, it makes them feel good. Hey, I feel really good. I've been going online. Now they make it even easier for you, but it's not going to help you out. Now you don't even have to go to the store. Of course, you're not going to, I don't know, you might be able to get it the next day, you don't even have to leave your house. It's a good and bad, right? It's good. Hey, it's good. I don't even have to go to the store, especially with COVID. A lot of people end up changing things around. I know people that used to go in the store to do their food shopping. Now they don't. All they got to do is order it all online, and it gets, dropped off at their house when they're home. It makes it convenient for them and stuff like that. So you do have to be careful. A push of a button, you can have anything. You can even have them, drive it to your car now. You don't even have to go, and get stressed out by all the energy with the people, going to a mall. That's how Starlight was. I could not handle the energy in a mall. Starlight would have panic attacks and start breathing heavy and stuff like that. At times when I was younger, I just did not do good with crowds. Hang on, Starlight's got to get some water. Ooh, let me see. Oh, I do have a bottle here. Yeah, so a lot of people, now they don't have to go out of their house. A push of a button. And like I said, you might even be able to have, I'm so behind on all this stuff with the technology and the, they got Uber, and then they got where, I get these names mixed up, is that, you can go and order something at McDonald's. You don't even have to go there. You can call this person up. I don't know how much this costs. You think McDonald's food. A lot of times people buy McDonald's food is because they love the taste, and it's cheap and it's quick. But now you don't even have to go there. You don't even have to go there. You can actually call somebody up, and I forget the name of this company that does this, and they will charge you. I don't even know how much money they charge you anyway. Does anybody know how much they charge you to do this? Because I was telling my dad can't see. He could use this. He could actually use some help here. Is they will, in their own car, because I was at McDonald's witnessing this, and they will go to McDonald's, and you already make your order, and then you got to tell them the number, or you got to send something to this person's phone. So then when they go to McDonald's, because people might steal your food, this is so crazy how they have everything. So, because I watched them do this at McDonald's, and Starlight does not eat McDonald's food. I was just only going there to do my morning stuff. So the person would arrive, and then they had to prove that they were picking up food for this person. So they would have, they must have sent them something on their phone, just like, hey, there you go, there's the receipt for the food. And then the person wants to make sure they check the food, make sure, that the order is right. Don't want to drop the food off and find out McDonald's or Burger King or whatever place goofed up on the order, because then I don't know what happens there. But so it's even easier. It's like a good bad thing. To me, I would only use that stuff if I had to, when I absolutely didn't have a way of getting to the store. Like I'm sick or something. Not that I am now. It's just if I was sick and there's no heck way I could go to the pharmacy, be like, yeah, that would be a time for Starlight wanna, that would be the only time that Starlight would really want to use something like that. Or my car's not working and I can't get to the pharmacy or I can't get to the store. Then I would use those things where they can come and drop it off, and who knows how much to pay that extra money for it. But in this world, you do have to be careful. It could be a trap depending on how you use these things. But the reason why I'm mentioning all this is that these traps about like who has the most toys wins, that's a lie. That's what you got to watch out for. That's the trap. In the Bible, it says it's harder for a rich man to enter in the kingdom of heaven. Wait, it's easier for a rich man to go through through the eye of a needle, than it is for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of heaven. So, with that is imagining what you're missing out on because you're so used to buying stuff or receiving. You might be a person that is in a relationship and it's a bad relationship. You could be in an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship, but you know what? That person loves buying you stuff. You've never been in a relationship like this in your life. They love to take you out to dinner. You might have some times that things are okay, but you're not happy. You're miserable. But then they go out and they take you out to dinner. They take you out on trips. You get to go to places that no one else ever took you out at. You're thinking about all the material stuff, but not really looking at really what's going on with your emotional part of you, because really it's psychological, emotional, and physical, and spiritual, that you might not be really paying attention to how that person could be affecting you. So there's people that get messed up because they fell for the trap. They fell for, hey, this feels good. I get brand new clothes. I get to even pick out my stuff, and they don't mind. They're happy to buy me stuff. But you're in a trap if you're in an environment or a relationship that's not good for you and not healthy for you. You might just be getting through, not being fully happy, knowing that that's not really where you could be really happy. That material, they could keep on buying you, and it could just be a trap to keep you there in that relationship. Because there's all kinds of abuse, different forms of abuse. And on that note, same thing is you could be with someone, and they could have a house. It could be the best house that you've ever been into. And, you could have a lot of stuff in that house. But you're in a really bad relationship. So now you feel stuck. You feel trapped in that relationship because you got all this stuff. And you really, you want to be free, but you're too comfortable with all this stuff. And then you don't want to leave that relationship because you know how much work it's going to take to get free. It is a trap. They use the Hollywood stars to keep you trapped by thinking, those are the stars that you're supposed to follow. No, if you follow the stars like that, those stars, my name is Starlight because I realize that we are the real stars. It's not the Hollywood stars. If you're so like wanting to be like, I don't even know these people's names. I hear stuff, but I don't even. Starlight is not a Hollywood fan at all. Of, Michael Jackson was somebody that I loved, but is no longer here. But if they're doing good for the world, yes, that's awesome. There's people that are out there that are Hollywood stars, but they could have fell for a trap themselves, and they could be stuck. You don't want to be stuck in a relationship just because of the material value. What do because that material stuff, you could be stuck in that relationship for the rest of your life because you're not really thinking about your peace of mind. You're not really, I know somebody right now that they want to go back to their ex, but they were being abused psychologically, verbally. That person was afraid in that relationship, and they're not together anymore. But you know what? Sometimes there's problems with the people that they feel like they can't find anybody that will go out and buy them things. And, instead of really realizing that God freed them from that relationship because it wasn't good. But you know what they're doing? They're still looking back. They're thinking that if I can go back with that person, I can have the life that I had before. I didn't even have to go to work. I didn't even have to go to work. If I didn't want to go to work, I didn't have to go to work. And they would buy me stuff. Not even giving two shits about how they were treated. All they cared about is he was a jerk. He had a temper. He yelled at me, screamed in my ear, called me names, had a temper. I didn't feel safe. A lot of times they forget about those things because they're just thinking about the material stuff. Man, I was able to go out. I miss all those clothes that I could have right now. But now, that person's with someone else. Now, that person's upset because somebody took their place. And they feel lost. They want to go back to that same lifestyle where they once were. But that's not what they don't even realize that God freed them from that kind of energy. But that's not what they see. They're like, I just want more material stuff. It's just that they need to get healed. That's what they need. That stuff is not going to heal you. It's a temporal happiness that fades. Oh, and then they buy you a new thing, right? Oh, and you feel good. And after a while, what it is you just want. There's no even reason why you want to be with that person. It's just gimme, 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 gimme. That's all it is. Gimme, 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 gimme. I watched too much of this in my lifetime. I had to learn by other people's errors in their life to be like that. It could happen to all of us, any of us, to be in a toxic relationship thinking, hey, this is the first man that ever even treated me like this. Bought me stuff, took me out to dinner, took me out on trips, went in the plane, not thinking of the abuse that went along with it. That's the trap, is when you let material stuff overtake your peace of mind and your peace and happiness away. And God does not want you to be in abusive relationships. God wants you to be free. But it's up to you to realize And you really need healing. You really need love. You need, that's the problem, is that you need to learn how to love yourself like the way God wants you to love yourself. Starlight had to go through this. I had to go through this. There's times God will pull you out of a relationship because God sees that it was not meant for you. But sometimes we get so blind to thinking, we got to go back to that toxic relationship just to get, thinking those material stuff is going to solve our problems, and it's not. What you need is to spend time with yourself and love yourself and make sure you keep yourself safe and not to get involved with those kind of relationships by spending time alone with yourself and finding out who you are and getting healed. That's what you need. You need healed and loved. You need to give yourself a break and not worry about, hey, I'll never, if you're just after a man or after a female because of what they can give you, you're doing it for the wrong reason. That's not love. It's great when people do buy us things and how it makes us feel, but that can't cover up the abuse that they do to you and how they make you feel, So it's a trap, the material stuff. It's great to go out and buy it, but if you're buying it, like I got to tell you the story. There's a lady, and I don't know what was wrong with her because I'm not a doctor, but I was in line, right? And the only reason I was in this line because I didn't want to go to the self-serve because Starlight doesn't want, I want the people. I want to have a human being at the register. I want a human being on the phones. Can you handle a robot on the phone? I hope not, because man, they don't have emotions. When I'm upset on the phone because they're, the system sucks, they don't know I'm frustrated. They don't know I'm aggravated with their system. But now a human being will know that, oh, this person's upset. But not a freaking robot. That robot has no feelings. So, I rather really to have a human being. So when I was at the grocery store, the lady that was in line, her food was starting to get ringed up. She had a full ass cart of food and stuff. And I was standing behind her, and I always observe what people buy, just curiosity, how they eat. Are they eating healthy or not? What kind of food do they like? And this lady acted like she buys everything organic. And I'll tell you what, this lady was buying all kinds of stuff. She had all kinds of stuff in her cart. And I'm like, wow, she's got lots of money. Normally nobody would buy all these kind of things at a grocery store. A good part of that stuff would have been like at a Walmart store or a different store, but no, she was buying everything at this store. When she was in line, she kept on buying stuff in line, and I'm standing behind her. I'm like, and she was so friendly, so talkative, and it was a show. It was, God does things like this to kind of give us something to learn from. That lady's materialistic. She might have some health issues, like some kind of addiction. And she was just like, and the cash register guy, was just watching her, and she didn't even have the bags for the food. And there was a line behind us. There was like a man behind me. He had a cup of coffee and a big ass donut with sugar all loaded on it. And I don't even know what happened in this story here, is that the guy behind me, most people would have said, freak this, I'm going into another line, because this lady had a lot of food. Normally nobody would wait this long, but I was so determined to be in a line where it had a human being, and it did. It took a long time because nobody was packing up her stuff. She was talking, but her energy was so beautiful. She was even trying to get me to buy stuff that I didn't even want. There was magazines on the side. She wanted to buy this magazine, and then she ended up buying, the lady was like my mom's age. She was buying Barbie dolls and said, hey, I'm going to buy these because later on, these are going to be collectors. So she was buying stuff for any reason for buying stuff. So this was a trip for me. I was like, holy shit, man. We were two opposites. Starlight, was just getting her bread or whatever I was buying that morning. I was just happy to get what I only had 2 items waiting for this lady. But this is what you got to watch out for. That's the trap. It's to get you to buy, and not even think of what you're throwing in the cart. Where you're just like, yeah, shoo, yep, shoo, And then, how are you ever going to get free from a relationship, if you are so used to buying so much stuff, and now that stuff has overtaken your life, and you might not even be aware of it, what it's done. The people in this line was like we really wanted to get her going because I was in line I was in the line the longest. The guy behind me with the donut and his coffee, he was all set, he had his coffee and he was like not going anywhere. There was a guy behind, which I was like, wow, I can't believe, how is this possible? These people are waiting for this lady. So we were after a while, after all this food got through the register, we were all like, hey, yeah, we gotta get her out of here, because she's held up the line for a long time, and she could have had some kind of health issue. Something might have not have been quite right. That's the kind of person right there. People would take advantage of her because she would buy anything. She was buying toys for her pets, toys for her grandkids, just buying and buying and buying and buying and just buying, not even thinking eventually that's going to hit home, when there's no more money. Now what? Or when you're forced to get out of a situation like a COVID, now what are you going to freaking do, right? Oh, they're going to make you take an injection, or you're going to get fined this time. And so, but you're so used to buying all this food and all these things and this and that, and now you got a choice. What are you going to do? Take the injection? Or, like get forced to take an injection that you said you're not going to take now, but now, you're the company that you worked for, that you never thought they would ever do this, but because everything got tightened up, that now your employer said, hey, you got to take that injection or you got to leave this job. What are you going to do? Are you going to take the injection so you can get more stuff? That's the trap. Scary, huh? So if you're in that situation that you always have to have and always have to buy, I'll tell you what, you got to discipline yourself and say, I don't need that. Really, right now, I only buy what I need. I went to the store today. I had $8 exactly. I went to a Dollar Tree. Everything I bought is exactly what I needed. Exactly what I needed. That's why it's a trap. There's so many things out there luring you to buy, to buy, to buy. It's a trap. So be careful. What are you buying? Do you need it? Or does it just, feel good to buy that? You gotta be careful of that stuff. Like I was buying arts and crafts, that's different. I'm doing arts and crafts stuff. I'm doing something with it. But just to say I bought something is a trap, and have an addiction of that, and always, every time, like, can you go without a month, not going out and buying anything? Only your food, only the things that you need. Can you go a month? No. Okay, how about a week? That is when you're going to know that you have a problem, is when you can't go through a week, just buying what you need instead of buying, always what you want. So that's what you got to watch out, the trap. because later on you might not be able to get out of a situation because you got trapped in it. So I love you so much. This is Starlight. You could give this video a thumbs up. You could subscribe to my YouTube channel. Plus, you can leave me a message down below. Beep, beep, beep. And you could share these videos with your family, your friends. Do you know someone that has an addiction of buying stuff? You know, do you go with some, you know, that's, people do this. They will go with people, go shopping, and they will show off. They show off. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna, you know, they do it because they got people with them. And then later on, they're like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I, you know, even going out to dinner with someone, you know, it's like, no, I only want to buy this. Oh, you're only buying that? Yeah, that's all I want. That's all I want. You know, people get shocked at me if I go in a restaurant and all I want is a cup of coffee. You don't want a big old breakfast? No, I just want a cup of coffee. So don't let other people pressure you into going out and buying more, you know, just to impress them. Say, no, you know what? It's okay to say I got to cut back. It's better to cut back now before it ends up being a big ass mess later on when shit hits the fan. So I love you so much. And also you could share these videos with people that are struggling with this stuff. And you can check out my playlist. Plus you can find me on Instagram at 1995 Starlight or on Facebook, and that's Kathy with a K, Dingman Starlight. I love you all. If you got these problems now, you're going to want to wean off. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. But you can do this. You got to believe in yourself that, you know what? I don't need to. So anyway, I love you so much. This is Starlight, and you have an amazing night. This is Starlight. Namaste. This is Starlight. Love, light, and peace.